Welcome to Running Your Stories. I'm here today with Howard Dracup, a good running buddy of mine who's done some pretty special things. And we're going to have a chat about doing solo unsupported because we're both used to racing. We've been involved with tough races like the Spine race and things like that. But solo unsupported takes on a whole another dimension. So let's have a chat about that and share some of our insights into solo unsupported. Welcome, Howard.
Hello.
Hi. So I think we've planned to not necessarily get into detail about what we've done. We have been very careful to keep things within lockdown rules and things like that, but people's interpretation of the rules are quite different, and let's just not get into that. I think it's just a whole can of worms. I've seen what you've done. You've seen what I've done. I don't think either of us have broken any rules. So, and we certainly wouldn't encourage anybody to. But with the nature of lockdown, if you're trying to do any really big days out, you inevitably start looking at solo unsupported because it is starting potentially to break rules, infringe on rules. Getting people to drive out to meet you, to bring you some water, isn't a reason for them to leave the house. So,
yeah, I'm trying to think, how can I do this without breaking rules? The only way about doing that is solo unsupported.
Yeah, absolutely. So where did you start with your planning then, Howard?
Planning, to be fair, I only recently started doing. I've not been running very long in regards to what other people have been running. So with me not running very long, I've only done races, very long races that like the Spine Challenger, for example, where support is very minimal anyway. So planning, I didn't really have to change. It wasn't much of a headache for me, if you know what I mean. I'm always careful. I think it all depends on like the kind of running that you predominantly do anyway. So with me, it's always, I always train alone. I always disappear into places where there's not much help and not much. There's not many people around, if you know what I mean. So I'm since day one, pretty much, I've always had to have this kind of a mindset where I need to be able to look after myself. So planning for me didn't really change much, but when you're doing it during these like lockdown times, you need to be extra careful because the last thing you want to be doing is making a silly mistake and having to ring at the worst case emergency services, whether it be police or mountain rescue or whatever, or even a friend. You know, you shouldn't really be ringing or putting anybody at risk for coming getting you. So you just got to be, anything that you normally do, you got to double up on that, and I think planning wise.
Yeah. So I think just on that point about the kind of the safety net, it's probably a good place to start because it's one of the critical points. But what I've done is I just used the Strava beacon because where I was, I had a phone signal most of the time, and so that could give people a small group of people an idea where I was. So that if that, you know, the absolute worst case is if one of us falls and bangs our head, you can't ask for help. And I thought it'd be good just you know, it's a very, very rare thing that happens, but it can happen, and it can happen when you're walking down the street. You can walk your dog, you can slip and bang your head. You know, so it doesn't really. It's not a kind of a new danger because of what we're doing, but it gives everyone that little bit of peace of mind if they can see where you are. And then what I did was I invited a friend of mine into this little group that was tracking me, who is a qualified mountain leader, mountain rescue assistant leader, and a runner. And I said, okay, you make the decision. If I do disappear off grid, and you're worried, I've got a a qualified person to make the decision about whether you raise the alarm or not. Rather than putting that onto my wife. But then the plan was, if which was the more likely thing, I got a kind of minor injury, the way you might say, well, look, could I get picked up from somewhere? Then it would be my wife coming to pick me up, because obviously we're in the same bubble and it's not putting anybody at COVID risk. It's something I absolutely didn't want to do, but just in case. You see, because that's the things the race organisers take care of for you, knowing where you are, knowing who's going to raise the alarm, and knowing that if that in between level thing happens, who's going to come and pick you up and get you to the next point or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Maggie did quite a similar thing. We just had to find my iPhone on both of those devices. So if I ever stopped moving for too long, and I didn't send a message. I sent quite a lot of. What I did is when I did my solo little adventure, I basically just kept doing voice audio recordings, saying I'm at such and such a place, I'm fine. Or once I got to the end of a leg, or once every couple of hours, I just checked in basically.
Yeah.
And the beauty with WhatsApp is when you do that, you can record it with no signal, and as soon as you get signal, it sends. If you know what I mean, it's not bulletproof, but that was my protocol. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Find my basically a tracker.
Yeah. So it was just very similar. Again, like I say, I just had it was just a Facebook Messenger little group, and I just put messages in every now and again, just telling people how I was, and it just meant it's all in one place. It was just got really funny because at one point I went very slightly off route, and it was completely on purpose, because there's certain business you need to take care of that you don't want to do on the route. And I was off route for just a few minutes, and I went back on route. And after I started running again, I thought I better just check the trackers started moving again, because the Strava beacon sometimes pauses and stays paused. And when I checked my phone, there was about 20 or 30 messages of people panicking about why I'd gone slightly off route. And so when I told them it was for a number 2, apparently it was the most fun they had in their day that day, which is it's a bit worrying, the levels for lockdown.
Well, we're on the subject of tracking. Or it slips my mind. I was listening to a really old audio recording the other day. You might have heard it when Martin Stone did his Solo Unsupported Bob Graham.
Right.
Completely just solo. He was up until this year, up until last year. Very late last year, very early this year. I think it was on about the day before the 30th of December, 2020. Up until then, Martin Stone was the only person to have only ever done a solo unsupported midwinter Bob Graham.
Right.
Shane Hawley went out on I think it was the 30th or the 29th of December, and he went out and he was the second person to ever do it. So the other night I was listening to Martin Stone's account of his kind of little adventure. He the day afterwards, he was so elated and so what's the right word? He was just so astounded by what had gone on and the whole experience. Described in the email where he sent it to me. He basically, the old-fashioned cassettes.
Yes.
Where you press play and record at the same time. He sat down in his front room, and rather than do blogs it was before social media. Obviously, I think it was 1987.
Right.
If I remember rightly. He basically sat down for an hour in it, and he spoke about the whole experience, and he recorded it. Forgot all about these tapes, and then last year or the year before, remembered about them, and he's managed to play them back and record them and
brilliant.
Stop the volume and basically remaster the tapes. And anyway, I've gone off track, but basically what they did back in the day is they used to leave marker cards before that, because they didn't have mobile phones. Or if they did have mobile phones in 1987, you wouldn't want it to lug it around in your backpack with you. So they left like market cards, and so they placed the market cards before they set off. Drove around and put market cards, and then people went out and checked whether the market card had gone. So Martin, obviously, as he went round, he picked these market cards up at road crossings. People knew them where you would, because this was well before trackers were invented. So I think that was, I didn't know they used to do stuff like that back in the day. Yeah,
that's definitely an interesting and, like you say, kind of old school method.
All that we're thinking about safety.
Yeah, but it's the whole kind of point of making sure somebody knows where you are, so that if that rare event happens, then
you couldn't even ring for help them days.
no, but it's like when somebody goes missing, I know from a mountain rescue point of view, it becomes a huge event, and lots of people put themselves at risk to come and try to help that person who's missing. And the more information that can be provided when that call is made to say they're on this particular hill, rather than saying they're somewhere in the Lake District, it's such a big difference, and it reduces it really narrows things down, and if you can say, well, they were here at this point in time, they were going in that direction, they're following this route, that all these things just help so much, and reduce the risk for other people. So so we've got letting people know where you are, which is a basic thing whenever you go out on your own anyway, but even more important when you're going out for a longer time. So what about sort of safety, sort of backup kit that you carry? Because I know I'd been training for the spine, and one of the first things I did, deciding to go solo unsupported, was actually take out a big bag of stuff, because spine race kit list is a little over the top with sleeping bags and stoves and things like that. But I always keep what I consider the minimum safety kit in there. I was wondering what you've got in there.
At a minimum. So at a minimum, what I go out with, so what I've just gone out with in my pack at the minute this morning, I just got back from a 10-miler, low level. In my bag, there was, I didn't eat anything, but I just had a packet of shop blocks. I had a flapjack. I had 500 mils of water. I didn't even touch that. I didn't touch any of my food and water. I was out for nearly 2 hours. But I had it there with me. Do you know what I mean? I always carry something to eat and drink, even if I don't need it. I had a Sol, like an emergency bivy bag. I had a Primaloft, like an insulated lightweight layer, like a jacket, a smock. I had a really, really thin, lightweight merino wool base layer. I had a hat. I had a spare pair of gloves. By accident, I might have even had a head torch in there. I didn't. There's no way I needed that today, but it was just in there because I tend to keep certain things in at all times. I had a head torch in there, which was overkill. So that was just on this morning's run. Oh, sorry, waterproof. So I had like it was raining when I set off, and it was 3 degrees, and I turned into a bit of a in it. So I had a Gore-Tex jacket on, and I also had like a summer, the basic tape seams waterproof jacket, like the equivalent of an on-cam a waterproof jacket, waterproof pants, and they had I had waterproof jacket, waterproof pants tucked in my little like a 3 litre waterproof dry sack. And that I just on this morning's run. When I went out and I did the Solo Unsupported, I took that with me. So do you want to know what was in my bag, or what I was carrying, including what I was wearing as well?
Yeah, let's hear it all, really.
Yeah, so on me, I had some like what do you call them? I call them budgies. They're like really tight compression running shorts. I had a pair of them on, what I'd only wear for summer racing, in really hot conditions. But I had a set of them on with some like running tights over the top of them.
Yeah.
I had some some really thin merino wool toe socks on. I had some waterproof socks on over the top of them. I had some running trainers on, faux running trainers, and then I had some Couture micro spikes over the top of them.
Yeah.
I then had a heavyweight base layer on, and I then had like a heavyweight winter Gore-Tex jacket on. I had a buff on my head, and I had some gloves on and some mittens on. That was just what I was wearing before I set off. In my bag, I had a replica of the base layer that I was already wearing that I had on. So I had another base layer, like a heavyweight one. I had my waterproof pants, the thin ones that I wear in summertime, which I carry for emergency kit in summertime. I carried the Primaloft smock, which I always carry.
Yeah.
I also carried a Primaloft gilet as well. What else did I have in there? I had like a decent head torch on my head.
Yeah.
Not like a lightweight baby head torch. What was it? It was a lead lenser one, a Neo 10R.
Right.
Neo 10R. And then I took one of them batteries on full power lasts, I think it's 10 hours.
Yeah.
I plan to be out for no longer than 24 hours. So I took, with one lasting on full power for 10 hours, I just took one with me in the unit. So I took one unit on my head with a battery in, and then I took two spares with me. I then also took with me a Petzl E-Lite to change the batteries on that, whilst just in case it just cut out on me. And then I think I took a Petzl Neo with me for just in case that, just in case the Neo 10R went for whatever reason. I mean, it shouldn't have gone, but I just needed to be covered.
Yeah.
So like 3 head torches.
I mean, you were on some quite technical ground where light is going to be absolutely vital. Yeah. Because I think, like, head torch wise, I had my Petzl Neo spare battery and a charge pack, but the ground I was on wasn't that technical that if it came to it, I could get myself off the hill without a head torch. So I didn't go for the sort of 3 sets of head torch as you did, which I would have done on more technical ground. But it's somewhat less technical where I live compared to where you are. So I
mean,
I'm thinking you keep mentioning this Primaloft smock. Is that the Montaigne one?
Yeah,
I think I've got exactly the same one. It's
Prism Ultra, so it's the Prism, but it's just like more of a running type smock. It's
really light, isn't it?
Yeah. I've got a spare. Which I've actually had the arms chopped off and then the seams on as well. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Made my own gilet out of it. So going back to the kit, I had that. I had like 3 head torches. One of them was just basically the size of my thumb, a Petzl E-Lite.
Yeah.
Petzl Mayor, not a Neo, Petzl Mayor.
Yeah.
And then the lead lenser 10R with three like lithium ion batteries.
Yeah.
The light source, I had a buff on my head. I had a really warm, like a bobble hat. And then I had, food-wise, I took basically a full pizza into quarters. Then I took 2 hummus and outdoor wraps. And what else did I take with me? Loads of shot blocks and like flapjacks, basically.
Yeah. So how do you find like the wraps and the pizza? Do you find those harder to eat in bad weather?
Cold weather, yeah. So it was, the actual temperature was -10.
Yeah.
And the wind chill, it was like -15, -17.
Yeah.
So I was eating the wrap, and I made the mistake of putting them in my my rib cage pockets externally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when I ate my first one after 2 hours, it was really hard to eat. So I stowed a packet inside underneath my jacket in like I had like an internal pocket on my jacket.
Yeah.
And my body temperature just kind of kept it thawed. It just kept it defrosted.
Yeah, because I've kind of relied more on bars. It's more expensive. I did take some wraps as well for a break from the bars.
Yeah.
I end up taking, I think it's like 4 different brands of bars and then 2 or 3 different flavors of each, so that I'm carrying like 8 different flavors of bars, so that otherwise you get sick of them.
You do put yourself off eating, and if you can't eat, you can't move.
Yeah.
And I did the same.
Yeah, I think
kilos.
Sorry?
All in all, my pack weighed 6 kilograms. I weighed it before I set off. I took 500 mils of water inside. Solomon it's basically like a filter flask.
Yes.
Yeah, I dropped a bollock with that. But what I did also have is I had an empty 500 mil normal flask. Basically, I was going to take water from streams through the filter flask. But the filter flask, it looks like a microorganism. It looks like a cell. It looks like some kind of something under a microscope that you see with all legs hanging off it if you look at what's inside there. Right. And basically, all that froze inside, so I couldn't suck any water through that. So I just basically, but with the temperatures and where I was, the water was pretty clean anyway.
Yeah, because I did very, very similar with water. I had about 500 ml with me at the start, in a bottle, and then I'd ordered like a branded flask. Filter flask, like you're describing, and it snowed heavily here, and it got delayed in the post, and in the end Amazon gave up trying to deliver it, and then a friend of mine said, I'm using this one that's like half the price. This it's called Mount Top, some Chinese brand. He says it's great, I've tried it, and I ordered one of them, half the price. It arrived the next day, and that's what I ended up using. But I didn't have the issue with it freezing. It was just below freezing when I was out, like -1, -2, probably -5 with wind chill. But
the top to your rubber flask.
Yeah.
You look at it. Is it like loads of noodles inside? Loads of rubber noodles. Can you remember?
See if it's going to come up on here. Because I've got the background on, it won't show you. No, it's like a big straw inside that does the filtering. And I've actually been very impressed with it. The one thing that I messed up on because I just got it, because I was supposed to have it at least a week before, but I had issues with delivery because of the snow. The thing that it messed me up on slightly was I wanted to put some electrolyte powder in my water. But of course, if you can't do that because it's going to filter it out.
Yeah.
And then so I thought I might find just enough water that I trusted was clean enough to so once or twice, every few hours, but I didn't, because the water around here is very peaty. It's brown, and you kind of look at it and think, do I really want to drink that without filtering it? But purely for getting water, that filter flask worked really well for me. I was very impressed by it. I drank a good few liters of water through it. One time I filled it, it was from what I'd call a dubious source. So the water was a bit still. The rest of the time, it was good flowing melt water from snow. So it probably have been safe to drink without a filter, but yeah, that worked really well. But I just kind of need to rethink some of the salt.
Yeah, maybe something like that. I use salt caps, so I'm pretty just nick a tablet.
Yeah, but then you see, I had some of the capsules, but then you need a big mouthful of water to get the capsule down.
Yeah,
with the filter straw, you're kind of getting a little bit of water all the time. It's hard to get a big mouthful to get a capsule down.
You got to really suck on them, and squeeze a bottle really hard.
Yeah, well, this one you just suck on it because it's a solid flask, so you can't squeeze it. You just got to suck.
So like life straw. Have you seen the blue life straws?
Yeah, so it's a copy of that. It was the life straw one that I tried to buy, but it didn't get here. So there's this company Mount Top. They make the same thing for half the price. So I needed it to arrive. So, yeah, that was like I say, just for drinking, because normally you don't want to drink too much at once anyway. It works really, really well. I was very impressed.
I also
sorry.
I was
just going to say the only other time I had an issue was over one of the sort of big hills that I went over. There was either frozen snow or bog that was just mud. There was no standing water at all.
Nothing.
Yeah, and I ran out of water on that section because there wasn't any water I could fill the bottle up with. So that's that was definitely an issue. Which obviously once I got water, I made sure I rehydrated. But you don't, as you know, you don't want to get dehydrated at all.
That breaks me.
Yeah,
absolutely breaks me.
Yeah, I had to just slow down and just take it careful. I realized before I ran out of water that I was going to run out, so it just kind of slowed things down. But then I had to delay eating a bit as well because again, eating takes more water. So yeah, it was definitely not a situation you want to be in, but what wasn't too serious.
Yeah. What else did I take with me? I took a GPS device. I took a Garmin E-Trex with me, with loaded onto it. I had the route downloaded onto my watch, and I also had a map and compass of the routes. Yeah.
I mean, map and compass is a key kind of backup thing. And what I had to do, because like the area where I am, yes, I'm near the Pennine Way, and you can get great maps of that. I actually got a custom map made so that I could have the whole route on one map, because otherwise I'd have been carrying 3 or 4 maps and cutting across them. And so yeah, that was there as backup. I was just using the route on my watch predominantly. I had it on my phone as well, but the map and compass was there. But the area where I am, I was never more than 3 or I don't think more than 3 miles from a road at any time.
Yeah.
So it's a bit easier to if things start going wrong to get out.
Or go south, you bail. Yeah.
But if I was up in the lakes or Wales or somewhere, I would definitely have been carrying a proper GPS device as well.
Yeah.
Like when I use them in the spine and things, I tend to not have it switched on most of the time. So you've always got full batteries. When you need it, you turn it on and use it. Yeah. So yeah.
I think that's pretty much. I think that is pretty much it kit-wise.
Yeah. So how did it feel? Because this is a bit that really surprised me. Going, because I'm the same as you. I do most of my training runs on my own, and do days out 6-7 hours on my own, and it just kind of feels normal. But I found going longer, completely solo, when you properly start getting the ups and downs, then don't you?
Yeah.
How did you find that?
What I'm quite a sporadic, spontaneous person, so I didn't need that much time to think about it in the build-up, because I ended up doing what I was doing because I trained for the Cheviot Goat race, which I thought, what can I do instead? I should have just done an Abraham's Tea round. But I decided to go and do something. It's not a secret what I did. I tried to do a solo unsupported Bob Graham. Yeah. So, spontaneous as I am, I thought, well, I've never done a Bob Graham. I've never even recce'd the Bob Graham. I thought, I will go and recce the route, and I'll just see if I can wing it and try and do it in under 24 hours in proper midwinter conditions. I just thought to myself, I'll take it seriously, but if at any point I'm not enjoying it, or it becomes too dangerous, I'll just pull the plug, you know, as a fun night out, a fun night and day out. So when I decided I was going to do it, I was bricking it, to be honest, because I remember speaking to a friend and him just saying to me, the solo unsupported like events, that they are quite serious and quite scary. You know, you're out there all alone. And then I just had to keep telling myself like that it's no different to the way you train on a weekend. It's just a little older. It's going to be pitch black. It's not territory that you've not been on before. It's just, so going back to what you said, yeah, it was a mixture of fear, the unknown, and excitement. So I was really anxious that day, and because I decided I was going to do it for definite, like 2 to 3 days before. I set off on New Year's Day at 10 at night. That was the best weather window, or what I thought was the best weather window at the time. So for them 3 days, I was kind of really anxious a lot. I think I wasted a lot of nervous energy. The progress on it, I'm wondering and thinking, should I do it or not? But when I set off, I felt nice, calm, happy. I was enjoying it. And then midway into it, then the weather conditions turned a bit. Well, they turned quite a lot. The wind picked up quite a lot. My base layer, which I had on, was completely saturated with sweat, and I had to stop and get changed. And it was at that moment in time, I just thought, things could, if you didn't know, if somebody was up here now who didn't know what they was doing, they'd be in serious trouble.
Yeah. And
after that moment, then I got changed. I put another layer on. And I started to not enjoy it. But anyway, I'm going off on telling you about the story now. But yeah, going up, mixtures of excitement and fear. It's just that, it's a bit terrifying knowing that if I would have just not got changed at the right time, it could have all gone south. And you just don't know out there. So I made a decision then at that point to I sent Maggie an audio, like a voice note saying, pick me up from Dunmail, hard enough. Fun anymore. I didn't even finish leg 2, but yeah, highs and lows. But I enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had in some ways it's similar kind of experience, but I kind of I think I got more like 2/3 of the way through, or maybe 3/4 of the way through what I'd planned on doing. And what I'd found, again, with unexpected weather conditions, when I'd set off from home, there was like a thin covering of snow here, really thin. And when I got up on some of the hills, and it was the one section that I didn't know so well, I'd been on routes that crisscrossed it. So I knew the area, but what I was trying to do was keep everything within West Yorkshire, because I didn't want to go out of what I consider my local area. And so there weren't paths there. So it was properly across the fells, and that was bog with 4 inches of soft snow on top. And that's really hard going uphill and down. I couldn't even run downhill on it because it was, every step was sinking in so far. And it wasn't a problem. There wasn't anything unsafe. It was just really, really energy sapping. And you know, you just got to work so hard to manage yourself. And then I got through that, and you kind of think, okay, that was a much bigger challenge than I was expecting at that stage. And then I got actually onto the Pennine Way for a while, which is, you know, trail I know like the back of my hand, and running along on there, and that actually gave me time to think. And I'm running along now that I could think. I started thinking, yeah, is this really, you know, this is the bit I should be really enjoying now. But and actually there was some family issues going on. My father-in-law had just passed away like 2 days before. And when I had the chance to think, I started thinking, actually looking at the time, do I really want to be out through most of this night? And then be too tired to see my wife the next day as well. And I decided to pull the plug and get home at a sensible time to, you know, kind of to support my wife and stuff. Because, but I think the common thing is that when I was thinking, even from when I decided to pull the plug, I had 3 hours of running to do to get home, kind of thing. But I could change my route at that point, and it was part of my planning on the route as well. I had these, you know, points where I could change the route and head home, because I know all the trails then. It's really, you know, well-known ground, and it was, I think if I'd known that there was like a checkpoint, you know, kind of where you can stop and just regroup, like you say about getting changed and things like that, I'm pretty certain I'd have continued. But it was just that, okay, I'm going to have another 6, 8, 10 hours of off on my own, kind of battling with the elements a bit. It's quite a lot, and I'd done enough and got through, like I say, all the interesting section that I didn't know already. And you just kind of think, you know, this next bit, I've done it quite a lot of times. It's my local area. I really have run it a lot. It became less interesting, and you just kind of think, well, you know, what's the next important thing? Well, I better go and help the family a bit. So
I think for me, like, you know, when you have them days when you're just tired and you're not feeling it. I don't get them often, but I just felt, I think like you say, I think I'd wasted 3 days procrastinating on whether I should do it or not. I've just started a new job. I've been dropping parcels for Amazon through the Christmas period. Really busy at work, working 6 days, and you're constantly every 2 minutes getting in and out your van. Walking up a driveway, walking back down again, jumping back in your van. And you don't realise how many calories you're burning just jumping in and out your van every 2 minutes and walking up a driveway and back down again. Great recovery, but it's not. If you're going, like the day before I went out, I'd been working for 6 days. I think I was physically tired before I even set off. And then it started off going up Skidder. It was, I didn't even need a head torch on. I kept turning my head torch off, just seeing if I needed it on. And it was full moon, dead clear, no wind, got to the top of Skidder. Perfect, dropped off, going down, heading towards Great Calver. And the snow then got like knee deep. All great fun. It was still runnable. But then slowly but surely, I went down Hallfells Ridge. And because of the snow, that was just brilliant to run down. Normally it's dead wet and slippy and rocky, and I mean, you go in, but it was just all nice powdered snow. You could go down it really well. And then I just got really tired and fatigued at the end of leg one, and I was going up Clough Head, and it just got harder and harder. The snow. I envisioned it being like just a dusting of snow.
Yeah.
It was like about a foot deep. So with every step, I was sinking.
Yeah.
You know, pack weighed 6 kilos. I'd just done 2-month training block of speed for the Cheviot Goat rather than training for going up and going down, you know, climbing and ascending. I just did it. And I knew once I got to the top and I started getting cold and I wasn't having fun, I just thought, well, why are you doing it? This should be an experience you enjoy. And it's not when I got to the top of Clough Head and the Dodds, I'd had visions of myself just skipping along, just trotting along, nice, clear night, no wind, everything shining in the snow. I couldn't see a thing. It was like 20 to 30 mile an hour, -17 cold winds. And I just thought, what are you doing? This isn't fun. Just knock it on the head. And I did.
Yeah. And as I say, it really kind of feels different when you're kind of trying to challenge yourself, and there isn't any of that kind of, oh, I'm going to see somebody in a couple of hours. I know from like long races, you know, knowing there's a checkpoint coming up, you're thinking about that checkpoint for 5-6 hours before, thinking about it for another hour, 2 hours afterwards, and it really makes a difference. But I think the thing now, sort of looking back on it for me, is I kind of can't wait to go and do it again. So solo unsupported, you know, it's like your first race. You're really, really nervous, and some things go wrong, and a lot of people might DNF or whatever on first races, and it's just kind of like, yeah, but that was an intriguing challenge. I want to get back to it.
That's it. Doing there, I thought, I've got a business, you know, I've got a chip on my shoulder now. I want to.
Yeah.
I'll let it spring.
I think the only other thing I was just thinking I should mention, because it was a mistake I made, and it's important to kind of learn. I want to share and not let help other people not make the same mistake. Is I was very focused as well on completing my challenge in 24 hours. It's not a known challenge. It was a route I'd completely made up myself. But when I realized I wasn't going to make it in the 24 hours because that section had been so slow, I then realized that I was actually going to run out of battery power, because I had my watch, my phone, and my head torch were being recharged from like a battery pack. And if I was going to be under the 24 hours, which in normal conditions I would have been, I had plenty of power. But I should have solo unsupported. You've got to, like you were saying about spare tops and again, spare food. I had plenty of spare food. I could have actually had a bit less spare food and a bit more spare battery. It would have been a better mix. So yeah, that was potentially going to become an issue. I'd have been okay with my head torch would have lasted till morning, because even after I got home and I started doing my training runs, I continued using the same battery just to really test. I had the 2 batteries, and I'd recharged one because I'd set off in the dark, and I'd recharged that, and I charged my phone, I charged my watch. I would have been fine for an extra couple of hours or something, but it was my watch and my phone that were going to go. I'd probably have had one more charge on my watch from the charge pack, so it'd probably have been my phone, but because I was using my phone as the safety net, it therefore changes the parameters. And you think, well, it's not safe to be there without that safety net. That was the plan in the first place.
Burning bridge down, in a sense, with that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was another kind of reason why I was going to have to at least cut a corner somewhere, to shorten things. So yeah, that's definitely a lesson. Because I was eating bars, I did have some wraps as well, but then they were wrapped in foil. When I got home, I could actually work out exactly what I'd eaten through this, and I found that kind of interesting. So I worked out I ate it was almost exactly 200 calories an hour, which I think is a consistent level of when you're not going at a particularly fast pace, I think is okay.
Yeah.
I think that was quite good. I was kind of constantly eating. There was only that time when I was short of water that I had to compromise. But yeah, it's that was good. But then I had, so eating 200 calories per hour, I probably had enough food to be eating 400 per hour. It was a bit too much, really.
Yeah, I think go down to the calories. I don't know why. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think I'd come to the conclusion that I was carrying too much food.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing to be carrying too much of, really, is it?
No, because I kind of worked out.
But it's packed down at the same time. It's like
that's right, because I'd worked out, what's genuinely the maximum I eat on long runs. And I divided that up into almost like I was going to do drop bags, so that I could do one set in the easiest pockets, another set in the next easiest pockets, and then have a bag inside the pack, that I can pull out and replenish. And I had that all divided up. Then I said, well, I better just put some emergency food in, just in case, if that all goes. And then I thought, oh, well, I'll just add the wraps on top of that. And then I'll just add these jelly babies on top of that. So I did end up with too much food, like you say, because my pack was I think it was about 6 kilograms as well, and it could have been a bit. It was the food that was the heavy stuff. So yeah, it definitely could have been a lighter.
Yeah, back on food a little bit next time. I'll have to probably half a kilo.
Yeah. I definitely do the same. And just check a bit more carefully on the map about water, because like when I went into that section where I ran out, I had about 2/3 full bottle when I passed the water source, and I could have just topped that up there, and it would have just helped me that thinking a bit more about what's coming up, that there's going to be a dry section. And I could even have put some, okay water into my empty bottle as well, that I could then have poured across.
Then poured it into like a spare reservoir.
Yeah. So yeah, a little bit more sort of thinking about where the dry sections might be. But then, interesting experience. Are you still there, Howard?
Yeah. Sorry, my battery.
Yeah. It's, we'll call it in a moment. Yeah, interesting experience that you had with the filter getting frozen. So definitely one to look out for. Yeah, thanks very much, Howard, for coming on and sharing your experience. As I say, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Solo Unsupported at the moment, which is why, with the amount of planning that goes into it, I thought it was worth a chat about with some of the things. I think probably the only other thing I had different to yourself was I think I had 4 pairs of gloves.
I had a couple of gloves, couple of spare sets of gloves, and pair of mitts.
Yeah,
I find mitts really important.
Yeah. Well,
I prefer my mitts over my gloves.
To be honest, I had 1 pair of gloves and 3 pairs of mitts. So,
yeah. Keeping your hands warm, that's one of the main
but
things.
The interesting thing was, through the whole thing, I actually just wore the original pair of gloves. But I wouldn't change having the spares. I just kind of got lucky that it was just the Montane Via windproof gloves that I had on, and they didn't get wet through, so I just kept wearing them. My plan was to wear them until either my hands got cold or they got wet through, and then I'd put the mitts on, but they were fine. But yeah, right. Anything else to add? What would you say about people going solo unsupported?
What would I say to people? Just go over everything, 2-3 times. Make sure, just don't scrimp and scrape on anything. If in doubt, just carry it. It's not worth it. And if you abide by them rules, you should be quite. You should be. Just make yourself bulletproof in a sense.
Yeah,
and that's about it, really.
Yeah, I think
stick to what you're stick to what you're capable of doing. You know, don't try doing anything that's way out of your league, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that's great advice. So thanks.
Yeah, it's been good chatting to you.
Thanks
as
again.
always.
Yeah, always good to have a chat. And one day we'll get out for a run together, but I don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah, you came up one time and I got us lost. Well, not lost, but I knew where we was, but we went where I took you via a different route. I should have took you.
We took the scenic route, didn't we?
Yeah, off piste. Yeah, I'll for a run again as soon as you're allowed.
As soon as I'm allowed, I will be.
Yeah.
All right.
Forward to it. All right, bud.
All right. Cheers, Howard.
See you later.
See you later.